Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at some of these charts then, shall we? And by that I mean Bitcoin and Matic. So let's start with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's doing some, not strange things, it's neither here nor there at the moment. There's a lot to suggest that it's actually really bullish and can completely just rocket, and I mean really rocket, probably 11,500 or so. We'll have a look at that, but for the short term I think we're looking for a tiny, well not tiny, but a medium-sized pullback. I think it's not required, it doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it could happen, and if it did, it wouldn't mean like a giant death of Bitcoin or anything like that. It would just be coming down to test this support line that we've got over the last within the last month or so. So let's have a look at Bitcoin first, and then we'll go into Matic, because obviously Matic's had a bit of a hard time at present, and there's reasons for that. This whole business with the competition and whatnot, the trading competition is really upset the chart. So let's have a look first of all at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin basically is as simple as this: golden cross, RSI looking very good, stochastic looking pretty bullish too, and we're about to get a cross on the MACD, and obviously we're in bullish territory, and Instagram's bullish, so all of that is actually looking really good for a nice big move actually, and this is what I do think is going to happen. The biggest move that we're going to see out of Bitcoin, I believe, is going to be one to the up, but that doesn't mean we're not going to come down. We will likely come down to test maybe only around about this. There's a few levels here, okay? We can talk about the center of the Bollinger Band being a first level, so we're talking about only 9,325 or thereabouts. And then we can talk about the 10 simple, which is only 9,200. So you can see how I'm going, right? These incremental steps down are nothing. Then beneath that, there's really not a great deal other than the descending support, the uptrend, sorry, of this support line, which actually brings us to around about 8,860. So if that were to happen, I would expect to see a support on this, and that would only be the price of today. It's quite steep, and so I'd say every day we're up about $60 on this trend line. So the trend line, like I say, is a clear support since where we launched up from this level here, 7,700, which also, like I say, coincides with the descending trend that we were stuck beneath. So breaking out of there created a big launch, and then we created ourselves a brand new support trend on the way up. So this is how I see Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, like I say, could only come down to these very small basic levels, testing these before we launch, and inevitably what will happen at some point very soon, and let me just measure this up to here, this little triangle formation that you've got here, within here is where the magic will happen, breaking up or above this trend line, or this trend line will be the big move. That's where it will all happen, because this one is the one that we've been stuck beneath for over 2 years, and this one obviously is just a little one for the last month or so. So the biggest move to take place would likely to be the one which we break out of here, and I'm talking a big move. I'm talking about 20-25%, maybe 35% move when breaking out of that trend. That's what I would expect of Bitcoin, or any asset, to break out of such a long, which you could call this a long consolidation phase. We have consolidated all this time, despite the big move that we made last year. This is a giant consolidation. You could maybe even call it a super massive bull flag, perhaps, even though it doesn't really look like one. You could call it that on a long enough time frame. You could consider it to be that. So breaking out of this would be the be all and end all. So let's just recap. So for the bullish argument, I have positive cross in bullish territory already above the 0 point on the MACD, likely to happen very, very soon, but hasn't happened yet. But it's going bullish. It hasn't happened yet. RSI looking to me like, generally speaking, it's making lower highs at present, but it's in a safe zone for it to make a big move. So it's not super bullish, but it's primed and ready to allow for a big move. so that's good. And as of these guys, I mean, you know, they are about to cross down, so like I say, it's telling me that the first move would be one to the down. This is basically based on just a daily chart, so obviously that's quite laggy. I can't really tell you that it's going to happen any minute now, but this is what it's speaking to me as. It's telling me that it wants to perhaps maybe take another leg down, probably only to test this area, so around about 8,800 max, 8,900 as of tomorrow, and so on and so on, and then that would probably mean it's ready to have another big test to see if we can break some of these most recent highs around 10,000. Basically 10,000 is the move to break at the moment, and then breaking 10,000 we come up to test this trend line here, and this trend line is the big one. This is the one to take off. We take this one out, and it's actually hovering around that level that we were stuck around before. So we're talking 10,500 to break, and then super rocket moon basically, and obviously a crash after that, clearly. Right, so let's have a look at Matic then, shall we? So just very briefly, Matic fell from the sky, which is no big deal. I was kind of expecting it. I was looking to pick it up around 2.3 cent. At the moment, I'm not really sure, so I'm likely to do that. If those who follow me on Telegram, you know, I've been holding out and waiting for it to go lower, and it did go lower, but at the moment I'm not quite ready to buy, given that Bitcoin might take a leg down, meaning that alts will probably take a leg down, and it depends where dominance is. I know there's a competition on as well, and I'm not keen on that whole competition business. So what's going on with this chart then? So on the tether, what we're looking at a very nice constructive chart, like all alts generally look like this from the bottom to the top. So looked really good. Unlike most other alts though, we got a golden cross way before all of those. This golden cross looked like it was anticipated. We had this big move here. Golden cross took place. We didn't dump into it or anything like that. We did some decent moves. Unfortunately, what happened here is that Binance announced a trading competition, so $50,000 of Matic will be given to the winner, who clearly doesn't need that kind of money because they are essentially whales. You look at the trading volume on some of these guys, we're talking I think it was like 900 million Matic traded so far just in the last week. I mean, do they really need another 50 grand? Anyway, that's besides the point. The unfortunate thing about this whole trading competition is that longs and shorts obviously count for that. When you've got big whales making moves like that, what you're going to get is extreme volatility. Matic's known for its volatility. You just need to go back in time to see the state of the chart. It's extremely volatile anyway, so you're incentivizing even more volatility, and it's unfortunate because Matic was releasing their mainnet, and I'm not a fundamental person, but I have followed Matic for a while, so I know a little bit about the project. But they're releasing a mainnet, and they seem like decent blokes, to be honest with you. And you know, there's a lot of people falling out with them because of what happened here, and this is a result of the fact that the coin was available for margin trading, so you can short it. So this is what happened here. You know, I just feel sorry for the guys here. I mean, this is where it happened here. I feel sorry for them because you see the state of this. This is like FOMO, and you know, worked out really well, and clearly couldn't take that price way overbought, and gradually came down. And this is good for us because it allows us to see certain supports and resistances, so we can make informed decisions when we go back into trade it. Which still works to an extent of where we're trading it at the moment, and we'll go into that in a bit. But you know, it's a very small asset class. You know, there's a very, very small amount of money in comparison to other markets that goes into trading Matic. So it doesn't take a great deal. You know, you see this. It's very telling actually when you see this competition. You see the people who are trading it and the amounts that they're trading, the sort of weight and the kind of power that they would have, that they wield with the amounts that they're trading. Does have they do have the opportunity to move a market really with some of that volume. I mean, it's incredible really the amount has been traded in a 7-day period by just one person. So you've got to bear all that in mind. Some people really, really do have the weight behind them to actually move a market, you know, like Matic. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Matic, you know, because I know that you know, obviously they're just running a business, they're providing a service, so they're doing their thing. But it probably doesn't feel good to have all these people losing out all this vast amount of money trading it. because like I say, they do appear like decent blokes, to be honest. Anyway, that aside, let's get back into the chart. So I just ramble, sorry about this, guys. Right, so where are we here? So the reason I got out around this level, which was basically just around before, it was about 2.65, because I knew that it was going to get rejected here on the first pass at least, because this is where we were rejected from when we came out of our parabolic top. 2.7 rejected here, 2.7 rejected there. That's fine, and we never came to see that price again until we burst right through it, which I was surprised to see. And but breaking through 2.7 means that we're going to make some decent highs after that. You can always wait to see if that's going to break through in the first pass, but it's kind of, in my view, that's the first place I would look to take profit, and then see if we do break it. If we do break it, then maybe go back in for a little bit of FOMO perhaps. But if you don't break it, you've taken profit near what I would consider to be the inevitable top. So it didn't make a great deal of sense on this occasion. However, if we come across to here, what we see is that the 2.5 cent and the 2.7 cent act as pretty strong resistance. So we came up to test it here on 2 days, and we broke down from it. That was 2.5 cent on this occasion. Broke up above 2.5 and just peaked our head above 2.7. Came back to close beneath 2.5 actually. The next day beneath 2.7. Next day 2.7. Broke up all the way up to here, closed 2.7. And then broke completely down from 2.7 here and onwards. So what would you say you would want to sell at if you had the opportunity to get out? Obviously everyone wants to make more money, but there's no point in holding on to something that just goes down. Well, you could have sold it at a relatively, it's called, I suppose, an educated guess. Where's it likely to reject from, at least on its first attempt? And it would be between 2.5 and 2.7. So what happened on this occasion? We came up above 2.5, so the obvious choice would be 2.7. Broke a tiny little, that's not even that, it's just my trend line's crooked. Didn't get to 2.7. Next day, we danced around, didn't get to 2.7. The next day came up, tried to get to 2.7, couldn't do it. Next day tried to get to 2.7, couldn't do it. If it's not going to do it and you get rejections like this 4 days in a row, the chances are it's going to do it again, or it won't even get there. So it didn't get there, and it broke down yesterday, and it's broken down big time today. So it broke down and actually bounced quite decent on the basically, you can call it the center of the Bollinger Band. On the daily, you can call it. Let's have a look at the 4 hourly, which is something I also like to trade. See if there's an obvious place. No, nothing obvious there. That was a huge death wick there. So what's going to happen to Matic at this point now? Well, the trading competition is still on, which means increased volatility to the up and to the down. It doesn't generally trade with Bitcoin much, right? So I mean, obviously it does, because it's an altcoin and they all trend the same. But it's slightly a little bit more diverse than your obvious, So what's going on with it now? Where's it going to go? We had a nice bounce from this level here. That's the 2.1, basically the center of the Bollinger Band, or you could call it, I think that's the 34 EMA. I think it is the 34 EMA that it's bouncing on. So it's one of between the two, between those two areas. So quite simple trading strategy here. But where we're being rejected from now is actually the 10 simple, which is coming along to that area of 2.3, which is where I was telling everybody on my Telegram chat I'll be looking to buy it back at. But if we're not breaking above it, I'm not looking to buy it. And when we're looking at the state of Bitcoin at the moment, where, like I say, it's very, very bullish, which probably means that we're going to lose sats anyway, then I'm going to hold off with Matic, to be honest with you. Maybe I might just trade on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin looks to be the more obvious setup to me, whereas Matic is a little bit up in the air. Now Matic can be a tradable coin, and it can show some obvious signals and signs, but at the moment what we're looking at now is perhaps maybe an overextended, turning bearish asset class, which might end up really burning us if we tried to buy Matic tokens. Now I know that they're going to be doing all this staking and maybe a Coinbase announcements. These are fundamental secrets that are kept from us that will be announced and cause pumps. I can't trade on those sort of things. You know what I mean? If you're a long-term hodler, those are the things that you hold out for, and that's your bag. That's not for me. I would quite happily hold a bag of Matic if it came down to an acceptable level, considering that we're looking like we're going to be coming down a little lower. Just going on the chart, okay, I'm just going on the chart. I'm not talking about the project, and like I say, I like the project. It is just a project. There's not many crypto. I don't go in for fundamentals, but it seems like a decent thing that they're trying to achieve. And like I say, they do seem like decent blokes, and they've got some quality infrastructure and actually some pretty weighty investors behind them, like like Coinbase and Binance. So they're friends with some of the high flying companies there. So I'd be surprised to see if the project died anyway. What I do feel is that the project is the tokens are being used as like, I just don't like the way it's being traded, that's all. I just feel sorry for the blokes who run that company, really, because they're going to be called scammers and whatnot, and it's not their fault. And this is Binance, which has essentially created this monstrosity of a chart. It's not the blokes who created the tokens in the first place. Anyway, again, I was rambling, so let's go back into it. So where's it going to go from here? If we break down from 2.1 cent, which would be, like I say, that's a decent bounce we've got here, but it's not saying that it's not going to come back down again. It could quite easily come back down to that level. If we're being rejected from the 10 simple, the 2.3, which was what I would consider to be my buying opportunity before this happened, it's not looking good. It looks like that might become a resistance now. If that becomes a resistance, we will come back down to the 2.1 cent, and then if that breaks, then actually we've got a lot further to go. We're talking green 50 simple, EMA at this point now. So actually, if that did that today, we'd be talking about we'll call it 1.9 cent. If that breaks, then it's all the way down to the bottom of the Bollinger Band, where the 200 EMA sits at the moment, and that's about 1.7 cent. So there is a lot of risk with this one right now. Obviously, I don't like margin trading something that's this volatile. The margin trading something like Bitcoin is hard enough. Do you know what I mean? Those who want to trade Matic, I mean, as much as I'd like to, because I feel like I have a grasp on the chart, it's way too volatile. You don't need leverage to trade something like this. It's just and I don't often use leverage until I'm really certain something's going to happen, and even then I probably get it wrong about 25% of the time. So, like I say, I think we've got a little bit further to go. If we break above and hold above the 10 simple at 2.3 cent, then maybe we'll be making our way back up to test 2.5 cent again. But at the moment, it looks like it could just dump again, so I'm not really too fond of that. Let's have a look at some of these smaller time frames. It's not going to look very useful because this dump has just happened. So yeah, I mean, it's really bearish on pretty much, I'd say, all time frames, because this has been a chart that's been moving quite fast. You'd usually look at some of the lower end time frames, like maybe the hourly, to get an idea of it, and the hourly looks like it's wanting to definitely make some of these negative crosses, so I would not fancy that. Let's just go back to the 4 hourly again. So there's still a bit of hope left in the 4 hourly, but not a great deal. And like I say, the daily is hanging in the balance, and I prefer to trade on the daily, to be honest. So let's have a look at the sats while we're here. So sats on the daily obviously look pretty bad, and likely would be hit down 225. Again, just below the centre of the Bollinger Band. 214 could easily happen, and a flat 200 could quite easily happen. Those would be my opportunities to buy. If it came down to 200 sats, I mean, it would be rude not to. I'd pick a little bit of Matic up anyway. And because this coin, it does pump and dump, so you might be waiting a while, but it's likely to pump again. But at the moment, it's looking like it wants to dump. So that's all I've really got for you on this one. Like I say, we those who follow me on my Telegram, you're aware of my trades. You know what I did. You know what I was waiting for, and so if you want to join my Telegram chat, the link is on my channel. So on the YouTube channel. So join us, and ask me some questions, and let me know what you think, and yeah, that's all I've got for you. So I hope you have a good evening. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.